We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Align, and it is the podcast for chiropractors, where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com. Welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Align, the podcast for chiropractors and those interested in topics on chiropractic. The goal here, of course, is always to inspire, motivate you, and energize you to attack your week in serving your patients. I'm your host, Dr. Shannon McMurtry. Normally, I'm joined by someone else, but I am flying solo in the captain's chair today. But I have the world's greatest producer, Snacks, to my right. So flying solo, but if the plane crashes, I've got somebody who can rescue me here. So today we're going to spend some time talking about stats and another subject in the stats, and that's closing percentage. This is a very misunderstood stat, and I think there's a lot of unrealistic ideas about what this number should be and what we're able to attain in this number. And I think it's time to just set the record straight, get on the same page so that you can have an honest, objective analysis of how well the patients are understanding what you're offering to them. Right. The closing percentage is just an assessment of how many people are accepting the recommendations that you have made and are wanting to get into a doctor-patient relationship with you. And that's all that is. But there's a lot of things that go into that. There are things that are, as far as you know, are unrelated to that percentage, but has a great deal of enhancing that percentage down the road. So we're going to get into some of that. I do want to start off, Ryan, with some shout outs. We've had some really amazing things happening lately. And first, Dr. Tyler Edge, we just wrapped up a September Summit weekend for AMC Aligned. And Dr. Tyler got a lot of awards, a lot of accolades. Dr. Tyler is in Fayetteville, Tennessee, and he has not been open that long, but has already reached almost 700 patient visits in a month, getting collections close to $40,000 in a month. And he's got a preceptor that's joined him and got to meet that preceptor at our Summit weekend. So he's doing great things, and he's got the right attitude. He's got the right humility, the right work ethic. You know, it's never easy. It always looks easier in the rearview mirror than it did looking forward, but very, very proud of what Dr. Tyler is putting together and what his future holds, right? He is just getting started. So Dr. Tyler, if you're hearing this, I want you to know, well done, great job, and I want to encourage you to keep up the great work. Somebody else, Dr. Karen Johnson. She is an associate with Dr. Rudder's office. And that office has really come on strong lately as well. But she recently set a record in patient visits and collections in the office. And again, if you were here at our September Summit, you got to see Dr. Rudder's office and Dr. Rudder get a lot of awards. I feel sorry for the team designated to put those awards on the wall, because that's a lot of work coming up. We also have, just very quickly, Dr. Sheila Barnett, and Dr. Sheila has had her second best month in collections, or her second month over 20,000 in collections. And Dr. Sheila has really stepped out in a commitment, because she said, I will be at every Summit weekend this year. And as far as I know, she's lived up to that, and she is getting the results that we typically see when somebody makes that commitment. So maybe you're listening to this and you're realizing that you could do a better job of that. You could be more present at our training weekends. Hey, there's a moment of inspiration and accountability for you. Every time we see someone make that commitment, we always see increase in the bottom line of that office. And her CA got an award today as well. The CA has really grown in concepts of value and what the care is worth in their office. So just very quickly, some really great things happening out there, and just want to continue to celebrate our heroes and celebrate the work that you're doing. Your results are why we do what we do. So it's very, very gratifying to talk about those results and share those results with other people. Hey, before I get too far into this, certainly want to remind you that we love hearing feedback from you. And you want to give us a pat on the back. You want to tell Ryan what he's not doing right. That's fine too. But show ideas. Do you have questions that you want answered? You can even submit those anonymously. Your communication portal to us is mailbag@amcfamily.com. Mailbag, all one word, amcfamily.com. Would love to hear from you. Have had several people communicate to us on that, and even offering some ideas for upcoming shows that we are excited about. So mailbag@amcfamily.com. All right, let's talk about closing percentage. And we'll try to do this in a way that doesn't make your eyes glaze over, doesn't put you to sleep. That's the danger about talking numbers in a audio medium. It's hard to kind of keep pace or keep track. But your closing ratio, your multiple appointment percentage, your acceptance percentage, it has a lot of different names, but it's essentially this patient has decided, yes, I'm going to do the plan that you have offered me. Now, I don't care what the plan is. I don't care if the plan is a pediatric plan for 8 visits. I don't care if it's a train wreck plan for 800 visits. It doesn't matter to me. If you have presented the plan to the patient, whether it's a small amount of visits, a large amount of visits, 2 weeks, 2 years, none of that makes a difference. But the plan that you presented to the patient is the plan the patient accepted. And consider this. You may present a plan to the patient who has some logistical issues or limitations, cannot be in the office as much as they ideally need to be. You may have some things that have to be pulled off of the plan so the patient can make the plan affordable for their budget. And that's fine too. That still counts as a closing or a multiple appointment or an accepted plan. It's not necessarily the plan that you have presented, it's the plan that you and the patient have agreed to enter into together. You have to make sure that you're not just assessing that percentage and thinking that that particular moment in the patient relationship is either what's winning or causing that to be a problem. What do I mean by that? There are many, many things that have happened, some good, hopefully all good, maybe some not so good, that have an influence on that moment of that patient signing up for care in your office. So we have to back the train up here a bit. Just talking about that and what's happening in that moment would not be honest with you. If you are not an AMC aligned member, if you're hearing this, and we're happy for your anybody who is not affiliated with us to listen to these, this is to edify chiropractors and the profession in general. I want you to understand that the way that we approach this is we have a day 1, a day 2, and a day 3 with our new patients, and that day 3 is when they're getting the report of the plan and getting an opportunity to accept that plan. So that hopefully gets you up to speed. Now, for those of you who know that system, that's the system that you're using. I know that you think the patient is deciding whether they will or will not accept your care on that day 3, like the moment they are with the CA, if the CA is doing the presentation, or with you outlining the time commitment and the money expectation and that kind of stuff. Truthfully, the patient is not deciding in that moment. Okay? The patient is not deciding right there if they are getting your care or not. That patient decided to take your care yesterday. They decided to take your care in your day 2. And I know you don't think of it like that, but I promise you, been doing this for almost 24 years, been mentoring other people for almost 20. That is the moment the patient is deciding to get the care that you're offering. And that's back in the day 2. The day 3 is when the logistics work out. They are not showing up on day 3, coming to make a decision one way or the other. By the time they've gone through your day 2 and they show up at your office for the day 3, Their behavior is telling you they want to get this care. They are very interested, very sincere, and they've already made a decision that they will get the care if, and here it comes, the if the money and the time works out. Now, here's the good news on our end. Very rarely does the money and time not work out. It happens occasionally, but very rarely are we not able to work with a patient in such a way that that is not a problem for them. So that's what's happening in day 2. That's what's leading up to the day 3. They're not deciding at that moment. They've actually decided a day before. But we have things that are happening in day 1 that also influence that day 2 decision to get your care. It also influences if the money will work out or not in day 3. Here's an example of that. In day 1, you are supposed to be having a conversation with the patient about their limited activities. What is their problem or condition or healthcare concern doing to them, and how does it affect or impact their work, their home life, their hobbies, those types of things. Everyone should understand that when the patient is presented with those questions, most patients will minimize the impact, and that's not them being disingenuous. That's not them trying to mislead you. That is a conditioned response for doctors, because minimum problems equate to what? Minimum solutions. So the patient will likely minimize in that moment. That's okay. You should be equipped with digging down a bit deeper and getting to what we call the need behind the need. For those of you who aren't familiar with that phrase, think of it like this. What is the motivation for care? What is the motivation for care in this office today? Isn't it funny how some patients can have a problem for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but today they're in your office and they need something done about it? That should make you scratch your head and wonder, what's going on now? What's different now today than has been different the past 10, 15, 20 years? Because I promise you, something is different today. If you know that motivation, if you understand fully that patient's future concern, and the patient knows you understand that, if you have that connection, you have done really the very best thing that you can do to help establish a sense of value in your care. So when the patient is coming to day 3, hoping the logistics work out, the time and the money works out, there's a perception about what their problem is actually worth to them. For example, somebody might pay you $500 to fix their headaches. That same person wouldn't pay you $5,000 to fix their headaches. The same person would pay you $5,000 to bring certainty to their future, to bring hope back to them. That person would pay $5,000 to have their future insured in their healthcare. And any of us who've had a healthcare condition that has brought uncertainty, anxiety, concern for our future can understand how valuable that is. So there's something happening in day 1 that impacts what's happening in day 2 and day 3. In day 2, you got a really important moment in the report, and that's not only where they are today, but that's where will they be in the future, right? The problems that they're experiencing have a past, something caused it, something set it up. It has a present, where are they now, what's the impact, what's going on, and it has a future, not only about their concern about the future, but where will this person be physically in the future if they remain on their present course? That future and the consequences in the future are part of the patient's perception of value. So you have to make sure that you're not missing these elements in these moments. They're part of your care that you give your patients. But if you don't have an understanding of your patient's concern, if the patients do not have an understanding of their future physical consequences, then you guys are not really on the same page and you're not communicating the entire benefit of the care that you provide. Many times people will come to one of our summit weekends and they'll hear about the value of the care our doctors are providing, and they have no concept of belief in that. They have no way to understand how that is even possible. It's really not that complex. See, chiropractic is getting the results anyway, but we've never had that moment to connect with the patient about their concern for the future, and we've never really connected them to their consequences of the future. So if you've done your job in those areas and you've followed the proper protocols, then you can, with confidence, present your plan to the patient, send them to your CA for the financial portion of that, the calendar, all the other things, all the logistical things necessary to get the help that they need. And you can have peace of mind knowing you've done everything that you could properly, ethically, morally for that patient to make a good decision about their healthcare. You can be at peace letting the chips fall where they may. You don't have to worry or stress that you missed something or you shouldn't have done, or you should have done something else. Now, maybe you're not doing those things. Maybe you're missing some of those elements in that day one. Maybe you're missing some of those elements in the day two. You do have some work to do. You do need to worry and fret about the areas that you're missing and fix those and fix them very quickly. But if you're doing your job, you can approach that moment with complete confidence and know the chips will fall where they may. And if you've done your job the right way, the good news is the majority of the time, those chips will fall in the patient's best interest, them getting the care and the recovery that they desperately need. So how do we assess what is a good number there, right? How many patients out of 100 should ultimately be agreeing to your care plan, the care that you want to provide? It's hard to quantify that number. I can give you some averages, and I can walk you through the different dynamics that affect that number. Okay? Here's an example. You give me a veteran doctor, established, great reputation in their town. They are doing no external marketing or promotion. They are only working with referrals. They're in insurance networks and payment options are very easy, very low, et cetera, et cetera. That person, referral-based, is probably going to have 95% of their patients accept the care plans. Right? 9.5 people out of 10 will accept the work that they're doing. Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's talk about a brand new graduate who is, let's just pick some sort of very specialty technique, an upper cervical specific technique. Not that there's a problem with that. I'm just using this as a tool to enhance your knowledge. They're doing a lot of screenings right now because they don't have any referrals. They're just trying to get established, get their foundation set in their clinic. And they are a private pay practitioner. So there's expense out of people's pocket that is higher than what they would be in the insurance world. Now, that practitioner is not going to have a 95% acceptance ratio. And I hope you would understand the dynamics that went into that. It has nothing to do with their heart to help people. It just has to do with how those people are coming to the front door, the quality of those new patients at the front door. So if you're a practitioner that you've got some referrals coming in, you have former patients coming in, you have staff referrals, physician referrals, you've got a website, constantly out there in the market. Maybe you do some advertising in the newspaper, or, you sponsor the little league team or whatever, right? Like you're doing some things internally, you're doing some things externally. If you have an equal distribution between internal referrals and external new patients, especially if spinal screenings and things like that are part of your mix, then you're probably going to have somewhere around 75% acceptance ratio. Literally 9 out of 10 of the referrals will accept the care, and probably 6 out of 10 of the marketed to patients, the spinal screening patients, will accept your care recommendations. Now, that is a guideline. It's not a hard rule because there are people who have that mix and have very strong closing ratios. On the other side of the coin, there are people who have that mix, have very low acceptance ratios. But you should be objectively, reasonably targeting somewhere around 75% if you have that equal distribution, equal mix coming in. If you are more heavily weighted for the referrals, then I would bump that expectation up to maybe 85%. And if you're more weighted, let's say you have some referrals, but you're more weighted to spinal screenings and that type of marketing efforts, you might want to bump that down to a 70, 65%. Point is, if you're getting those types of acceptance ratios, I think you can take confidence that you're doing an adequate job connecting with your patients, talking about what the consequences are, both in their mind and in their physical reality, and know that you're doing a good job with that. Okay? Now, what if we're not hitting those numbers? All right, what do we do? What do we look at? One of the best tools I can offer you if your acceptance percentage is not what it should be is something called an exit interview. Now, the exit interview is outlined in our training material library. It's actually titled Exit Interview. That's how you'll know where to find that and how to get to it. But that exit interview is a way for you, the doctor, to have a very quick conversation with the patient about what they understood about the care you're hoping to provide them and the results that they need to achieve. Let me tell you what the exit interview is not. The exit interview is not a sales technique. It is not a way for you to go in there and make the sale, close the sale, whatever. I do not like sales in our profession. I don't think there's really any room for sales in our profession. No high pressure sales, no slick sales and marketing, that kind of thing. I think if you're honest with patients about what they need and they know your heart and they trust that you can deliver the goods, chiropractic sells itself. So the exit interview is not a sales technique. It's not a way for you to win the day, close the sale, close the deal, whatever. So what is the exit interview? 3 simple questions. Do you understand your problem? Do you know what we are doing, what we can do to fix it? And number 3, do you know what will happen if we don't do that? Right? Do you understand your problem? Do you understand what we can do to help it? Do you understand what will happen if we don't do that, or if you don't do that? If the patient in that moment gives you not technical jargon, but layman's terms, and they understand what's happening to them, if they understand how the adjustment is helping to make that better, fix the problem, correct the problem, and they understand and are able to communicate to you what's going to happen if they don't take this course of action, you've done your job. There's nothing else to do. They have an understanding. Now they just have a decision to make. It is true to say that you can do your job perfectly with the best intentions and the best policies and protocols, and someone is not prepared to get the help that they need. My wife works at a hospital, and you can see people remove their oxygen in the room, go out the back door, smoke a cigarette, and go right back in and get back on their oxygen for their COPD. Is that a failing of the hospital? Is that a failing of the respiratory team? No, that's a failing of that patient. That patient is not ready to do what's necessary to get healthy or healthier. Well, that's true for us as well. You can do everything right. Patient can still make a bad decision. My point is, if they understand and they're able to articulate that understanding, you've done all you can. Now it's their decision. What if you ask the questions, though, and they don't understand, right? Do you know what your problem is? Yeah, I'm having a pain right here, and it's been there for 5 years. They have totally missed the boat on the bigger healthcare issue. They've totally missed the boat on the damage that's already taken place. They were just not paying attention to you. They had no bandwidth for what you were explaining. Do you know what we're doing to fix it? Yeah, you're popping my neck, you're cracking my back, and that feels good. Right? Again, we've missed the boat. Do you understand what's going to happen if we don't do this work? Yeah, I'm going to continue to hurt. Right? This person was physically present with you in the rooms, but was completely oblivious to everything that you explained. For this person, you've got maybe 30 to 45 seconds to bottom line it. Mrs. Jones, you're having pain because you have a subluxation, bones, joints that are not working, moving position correctly. It's having an impact on your spinal health. You have degenerative disc and joint disease. That is a progressive condition. It will continue to get worse until something is done to correct that, and we correct it with our adjustments. See, that didn't take very long. I'm not trying to sell it to her. I'm not trying to make sure that she is on board or she understands my paradigm. I'm trying to take the moment that I have here to offer clarity to her lack of understanding of what we've done up to this point. With a little bit of luck, she understands it now. And now maybe she has an opportunity to make a better decision. Maybe she still makes a bad decision. Again, that's not the purpose of the exit interview. I'm not trying to make sure she makes the best decision. I'm trying to make sure that I didn't lose her along the way. I want you to think about this. If your patients don't understand and they're saying to you or your staff, well, I have to talk about this with my spouse, or I have to pray about this, I really have to give this some thought. Folks, if they don't understand it, how can they pray about it the right way? How can they have a proper conversation with somebody? You have to make sure that the person that they are seeking counsel with, God, themselves, a spouse, that they can have a proper conversation about what's really going on inside of their body. So think about that. If I'm counseling you on how to structure your office, you do your report, you send it to the CA for the financial and the scheduling. If they say to the CA, well, I need to think about it. I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not going to do it. I need to pray about it. I need to talk to my spouse, whatever. I would instruct your CA to take the following action. I understand, Mrs. Jones. Just sit tight. I'll get the doctor. She's going to have some final thoughts for you, some final questions with you. I'm not asking her to stay. I'm just sit tight. CA leaves the room. CA comes and knocks on my door. Knock, knock, knock. You've got Miss Jones needing an exit interview. I'll excuse myself from the patient I'm with right now as long as it isn't consultation. I'll say, Ryan, I apologize about this. I have a patient that needs my attention. I'll be back in just a few seconds. Please bear with me. Ryan is gracious. He excuses me. I go talk to Mrs. Jones and I ask her those 3 questions. You know what your problem is? Do you understand it? Do you understand where you're headed? Do you understand what we can do to fix it? If she doesn't answer that correctly, I capitalize on the opportunity to bottom line it, distill it down to a 30, 45-second explanation. Do you understand that now, Mrs. Jones? Great. Well, we look forward to hearing back from you and getting started on this. So I'll close it. I'll end it with a very positive, expectant type of statement. And then I'm out the room and I'm back to my patient, Ryan. Ryan, sorry about that. It's unavoidable. Thanks for giving me that. Let's get back to work on you. That's what I'm going to do for exit interview. That's how I'm going to counsel your team to do that. And what I hope to do is build a data sheet which will tell you as the doctor where you're losing your patients. Where are you losing your patients in day 1, day 2, day 3, and creating problems for them to understand what's going on and make a decision about their future care. So there's the value from it. The value is the data that it brings. If you're finding that patients consistently understand their problem, but they don't understand what you can do about it, you know what you have to fix. If they understand what you can do about it, but they don't really have a grasp of the consequences of their future, obviously you know what you need to work on, right? There's the value in that exit interview. And if you refine that and you have an understanding, then I promise you, the people who are prepared to take their problem seriously and invest in their future and their recovery will accept your recommendations at that moment. I hope this has been helpful for you. I know that we are up against the clock. Hey, this was kind of fun for me doing it solo. It was challenging, but I had a good time doing this. I hope that content was of value to you. If I can do anything to serve you, my contact information and how you can get in touch with me is coming down the road. But until next time, I hope that you will use your talents and abilities and gifts in the service of others and have a really blessed rest of your day. And one more thing before we go. If you're a chiropractor who's searching for a better way to build a more sustainable, low-stress practice, then you can contact us at amcfamily.com. You can schedule a discovery session, or you can access any of our free content, webinars, podcasts, and the like.